All right, so let's dive into William the Conqueror. The first Norman king of England, the
Yeah.
guy who, won at Hastings in 1066.
Right, right.
But there's so much more to him
Oh, yeah.
than just those, dates and battle. I mean, this is someone who basically reshaped England as we know it.
Absolutely. And, and
Mhm.
and you know what's really fascinating to me is it's a story about ambition, really.
Yeah.
First time ambition. He's born into this world of immense power,
Right.
but also incredible instability. And it's like a case study in how that ambition can really shape not just a person's destiny, but an entire nation.
Hmm. So let's rewind a bit, right? Let's go back to William's beginnings
No,
because
yeah.
it's a pretty interesting story. He wasn't, born into luxury. He was born a bastard, which back then wasn't just some, tabloid headline.
Right. It wasn't just gossip. It was a serious problem.
Yeah.
Because in the 11th century, legitimacy, it was everything,
Mhm.
It determined your inheritance, your titles, your very right to rule.
Right.
And for William to be the illegitimate son of Duke Robert of Normandy, well, it meant a childhood that was really dangerous and uncertain.
Oh,
Constant power struggles, rivals,
yeah.
trying to take his position.
I mean,
Even assassination attempts. I mean, it was,
wow. So he basically grew up with a target on his back.
he did.
It's no wonder he became a tough and assertive leader.
Right.
So his father eventually dies while on a pilgrimage, actually, which is kind of interesting in itself.
Yeah.
But he leaves young William to inherit the Duchy of Normandy. So what was this scene like when he took over? I mean,
Oh, it was chaos.
yeah.
Total chaos.
Yeah.
Remember, this is a feudal society, right?
Mhm.
Power is decentralized.
Right.
Loyalty is constantly being tested. And when a duke dies,
Right.
especially one that leaves behind, a young and illegitimate heir, well, it's just a recipe for everyone to try to grab what they can. It's like opening Pandora's box.
It's like a medieval Game of Thrones, basically.
Exactly.
So how does this teenage duke, right, surrounded by enemies, how does he not only survive but eventually thrive?
It's a good question. And I think what we see is William was a very quick study when it came to power. He showed real strategic brilliance early on, especially at the Battle of Valles Dunes when he was just 17 years old.
Wow.
And this was a really decisive victory against these rebellious Norman barons.
Right.
And it sent a message like, don't underestimate this young duke.
Don't mess with him.
Yeah, exactly.
But, okay, winning a battle at 17 doesn't automatically make you this, respected ruler.
No, of course not.
What else was going on?
Well, that was just the beginning. I mean, over the next 2 decades, William really proved that he was not just a military strategist, but a brilliant politician. He
Yeah.
built these alliances carefully,
Right.
most notably through his marriage to Matilda of Flanders.
Okay.
He was very good at using the power of the church to legitimize his rule.
Mm.
And let's be honest, he wasn't afraid to use force when he had to.
So a combination of, strategic, genius, political maneuvering, and maybe just a touch of ruthlessness.
Yeah, a little bit.
So he goes from, this vulnerable outcast to the undisputed Duke of Normandy.
That's amazing.
It's quite a journey. But, of course, this is just the beginning
Oh,
of his
yeah.
story because he has his eyes set on something bigger.
He
He wants the English throne.
much bigger prize.
And that's where things get really interesting.
That is where it gets interesting.
So we've got William, Duke of Normandy, firmly in control, but we know he's got his sights set on something bigger, the English throne. And to understand how that was even a possibility,
Right.
we need to look at England in the mid-11th century.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
It was a completely different world from William's Normandy.
Okay.
I mean, you're talking about Anglo-Saxon rule, a totally different culture,
Yeah.
different traditions, different laws, a different language. And then you've got their king, Edward the Confessor.
Okay, so a different culture and a king who was a bit of a mystery.
Yeah, he was a bit of an enigma.
So what's the connection with William?
Well, Edward was William's distant cousin.
Okay.
And here's the key. Edward didn't have any children,
Oh, so no heir.
no heir, which means when he dies, that throne is up for grabs.
Right.
And William, with all of his ambition
Yeah.
and this belief in his own destiny, he sees this as an opportunity.
So a power vacuum in England. But I'm guessing William wasn't the only one with a claim to the throne.
Oh, absolutely not. This is medieval politics. Things are never that simple.
Right.
You've got other powerful figures in England who felt they had a better claim, and the most prominent of these was Harold Godwinson,
Okay.
a powerful English earl
Right.
with deep ties to the Anglo-Saxon ruling class.
So we've got two powerful guys, William and Harold, both thinking they've got a right to the English throne. So what happens when Edward the Confessor finally dies?
Well, in 1066, when Edward dies,
Yeah.
Harold Godwinson, he moves quickly. He seizes the throne.
Makes sense.
I mean, from his perspective, he's the most powerful guy in England.
Yeah.
He felt like it was his right.
It's his...
But William saw this as a betrayal.
Right.
He believed Edward had promised him the throne years earlier.
Hmm.
So there's some bad blood brewing.
So things are heating up, right? We've got a Norman duke feeling cheated and an English earl determined to hold on to his new crown. What happens next?
William, never one to back down from a challenge, he decides to take things into his own hands.
Okay.
He assembles this huge fleet
Right.
and an army of Norman knights. They set sail across the English Channel to claim what he believes is rightfully his.
So 1066, the year of the Norman invasion. But this wasn't just some, small raid.
No, this was a full-blown invasion.
Right.
A carefully planned operation with one goal: to conquer England.
Wow.
I mean, William landed with thousands of troops, horses, all the supplies they need for a long campaign. And keep in mind, this was just one problem that England was facing that year.
Oh, right. There was more going on. Wasn't there something about Vikings, too?
Exactly. 1066 was a wild year for England. Not only did they have the Norman invasion, but they were also attacked by Vikings, led by Harald Hardrada, the King of Norway.
So England is basically getting hit from all sides.
Yeah, they were.
Poor Harold Godwinson, talk about a tough year.
Yeah, first he has to march north to face the Vikings,
Right.
which he defeats at the Battle of Stamford Bridge. But then, with his army exhausted, he has to rush back south
Oh, no.
to confront William and the Norman.
Right.
And this is where we get to probably the most famous battle in English history,
The Battle of Hastings.
the Battle of Hastings.
Okay, everyone knows the name.
Right.
But what actually happened at Hastings? I mean, beyond just Normans versus Saxons.
Yeah.
William wins.
Well, the battle took place on October 14th, 1066, near the town of Hastings.
Okay.
Harold's English forces, they were tired from that previous battle.
Right.
And they took up a defensive position on a ridge.
Okay.
They formed a shield wall, the classic Anglo-Saxon tactic,
Right.
hoping to repel those Norman attacks.
So hold the high ground, wait for the enemy to attack. Sounds like a decent plan.
Yeah, and initially it worked.
Okay.
I mean, that English shield wall, it held strong against wave after wave of Norman charges.
Wow.
But William was a clever commander.
Yeah.
He started feigning retreats, trying to draw the English out to break their formation and expose them to his Norman cavalry.
Classic military tactics. Lure the enemy in and then hit them with your best troops.
Exactly.
But wasn't there also that whole thing with Harold getting an arrow in the eye?
Ah, yes.
Mm-hmm.
The image that everybody remembers from the Bayeux Tapestry, this incredible embroidered record of the Norman Conquest.
Yeah.
Now, whether or not Harold actually died from an arrow in the eye,
Right.
that's debatable.
Okay.
But his death was definitely a turning point.
Makes sense.
The English army, they're leaderless. Now they're demoralized. They eventually break and flee.
So one battle, one dead king, and just like that, England is under new management. I bet William threw one heck of a party to celebrate.
He probably did.
But I'm guessing not everyone in England was thrilled about having a Norman king.
You're absolutely right.
Mhm.
I mean, while some English nobles submitted to William,
Right.
many resisted fiercely.
Of course.
They weren't about to just give up their lands, their titles, their way of life without a fight.
Yeah.
And this is where William's real genius as a ruler comes into play.
Okay.
He wasn't just a conqueror. He knew how to secure and maintain power.
So he did the whole, build castles, replace nobles thing, but wasn't that pretty standard for a conqueror trying to solidify his rule?
It was, but William went further than most.
Okay.
He implemented these policies that were designed to completely reshape English society.
Like what?
Well, for example, he built castles all over England, not just as military strongholds,
Right.
but as these symbols of Norman dominance.
Okay.
He replaced a lot of those Anglo-Saxon nobles with his loyal Norman followers,
Right.
giving them land and titles in exchange for their service. And he even ordered the creation of the Doomsday Book, this incredibly detailed survey of every piece of land in England.
Wait, a giant inventory of who owns what? That sounds a little tedious.
It might sound that way, but it was a brilliant move.
Okay.
Think about it. In one fell swoop, William was able to assess the wealth of his new kingdom,
Right.
figure out how much tax he could get from his new subjects,
Smart.
and assert his control over every inch of English soil.
Yeah.
It was like this massive data collection project centuries before computers.
So the Domesday Book wasn't just about paperwork. It was about power.
Exactly.
But even with all this control, I'm guessing things weren't always easy for William, especially when it came to his own family.
You're right. Even with England conquered, William had challenges. And some of the toughest came from his own family,
Oh, no.
particularly from his eldest son, Robert.
Not another rebellious son.
Well, let's just say Robert wasn't content to wait patiently for his inheritance.
Oh.
He challenged his father's authority multiple times, led rebellions, and there's even one account where he unhorsed William during a battle.
Wow, talk about family drama. This all happened while William was ruling England.
It did.
So his own tactics were coming back to bite him. How did he handle this whole conflict with his son?
It was a delicate balancing act.
Yeah.
On one hand, he had to assert his authority, show that even his son wasn't above the law.
Right.
But on the other hand, he had to find a way to appease Robert and prevent an all-out civil war.
Right.
Their relationship remained strained for years, and it really highlights how difficult it is to maintain power even within your own family.
So even a conqueror like William the Conqueror had to deal with family drama.
He did.
I guess no one, not even a king, can escape those complicated human relationships.
That's true. And speaking of complicated, William's final years were full of them.
Okay.
You've got ongoing conflicts on the continent, threats from the Danes,
Right.
and of course that ever-present tension with his son Robert.
Right.
It seems that even with all his achievements, William just couldn't find peace.
We've covered a lot of ground. William's rise to power in Normandy, his conquest of England, the challenges he faced as a ruler. But we're missing one big piece of the puzzle. How did it all end for William the Conqueror?
That's the big question, and one we'll explore in our final segment. We'll delve into William's death, his legacy, and the lasting impact he had on England, an impact that is still felt today. So stay tuned because we're going to uncover that final chapter in the story of William the Conqueror.
So we left off with William, right, facing all these challenges, those conflicts abroad, threats from the Danes, and that tension with Robert, his son.
Right. It really does seem like even conquering England couldn't bring him any lasting peace.
Yeah. So how does it all end for William the Conqueror, this larger-than-life figure? I mean, was this some glorious death in battle like you'd expect for a king?
Well, history can be a little ironic sometimes.
Yeah.
William's death, it wasn't exactly glamorous.
Oh.
In 1087, he was leading a campaign in northern France, just trying to put down some unrest. And while attacking this town, he falls from his horse.
Wait, seriously, he trips over his own ambition? That's kind of anticlimactic for a guy who conquered England.
It does seem that way, but it's a good reminder that even the most powerful people, they're still human,
Right.
And for William, that fall was fatal.
Hmm.
He was taken back to Rouen, and that's where he died.
Wow, it's almost poetic. This mighty conqueror brought low by a simple fall. But, I mean, the story doesn't end there, does it? For a guy like William, I'm sure his funeral was quite the spectacle.
You'd think so, right?
Yeah.
But even in death, things didn't quite go according to plan.
Oh.
William, well, he enjoyed the finer things in life, shall we say,
Okay.
including a good meal. And let's just say when they tried to fit his body into his stone sarcophagus, it didn't go as smoothly as they'd hoped.
Hold on, are you telling me William the Conqueror, the guy who reshaped England, couldn't even fit in his own tomb?
It's true. Some accounts say that as they were trying to force his body in, well, things got a little messy. Not exactly the dignified end you'd expect for a king.
It's almost like fate had one last laugh at William's expense. So here we have this complex figure, right? A brilliant military strategist, a ruthless ruler, a man driven by ambition, and yet at the end of the day, a human being with all the same flaws as everyone else.
It's a powerful image. And it brings us to the question that historians have been debating for centuries. How should we remember William the Conqueror? Was he a hero who brought progress to England? Or was he a tyrant who just imposed his will on a conquered people?
I'm guessing the answer is not so simple.
Exactly. There's no denying that William's conquest was brutal. It was disruptive. He changed English history forever,
Right.
imposed a new ruling class, a new language, new systems of law and governance, but he also laid the foundation for a more unified England.
Yeah, and it's amazing that even today we can still see William's influence all around us. I mean, you think about those castles like the Tower of London,
Right.
elements of our legal system, even words in the English language that come from Norman French.
It really shows the lasting impact of conquest.
Yeah.
How it can shape a nation's identity for centuries.
So what's the takeaway here for our listeners? What should they be thinking about after diving into William's life and legacy?
I think William's story, with all its twists and turns, it challenges us to look beyond those easy labels of hero and villain. He was a man of his time, driven by ambition, shaped by the world he lived in. And his story reminds us that history is rarely simple. It's messy.
Yeah.
It's a mix of ambition, power, chance, and consequence.
Well said. It seems William the Conqueror, even centuries after his death, still has a lot to teach us about power, ambition, and the legacy of the past. And who knows, maybe there's a modern-day William out there somewhere waiting to make their mark on history.
That's an interesting thought. Makes you wonder what events happening today might one day be considered legendary.
Indeed. That's all the time we have for today's deep dive, but hopefully this has made you curious to learn more. Maybe check out some of the sources we mentioned, or even visit some of the places connected to William's life. There's a whole world of history out there to explore.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and remember, history isn't just about the past. It's about understanding ourselves and the world we live in today.